Hello and welcome to Compelled to Act, where we do things unscripted, unedited, and off the cuff. Today we're going to be looking at the story of Mark Zuckerberg admitting Facebook censorship at the behest of the government. Not much more to say about that. Let's jump right into the clip.
Well, the CEO of the social media giant Meta revealing that his company censored some of its content around the COVID-19 pandemic. Mark Zuckerberg says his teams didn't want to, but they were under serious pressure from the Biden administration, and he is telling members of Congress that this will not happen again. Well, our Sunderland Sarfati is following this from Washington. This is fascinating. This revelation came in a letter from Mark Zuckerberg, as I understand it, the House Judiciary Committee. What more do we know about what is in that letter?
So I just want to hit that real quick. So in his letter, at the behest of the government, he tells the government that he would push back against requests from the government by complying with them. That's like a slippery slope, right? It's kind of funny.
Yeah, Becky, it's a very strongly worded letter sent from Mark Zuckerberg to the House Judiciary Committee, who has been pushing for more information about the spread of potential disinformation, the spread of information, and potential censorship, they say, on the part of the White House. And Zuckerberg in this letter is very clear. He uses the words pressure. He said he felt pressure from the Biden White House to censor some of the information about the COVID-19 pandemic. And he says, he expresses regret. He says he should have been more outspoken at the time. He now believes it is wrong, knowing what he now knows. And in this letter, he says, quote, in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. That was him in this letter to the House Judiciary. House Republicans, Becky, they're already, highlighting this information, celebrating this admission on the part of Zuckerberg. The White House defending their position, a statement to CNN today saying that during that time, they believe the administration, they said, encouraged responsible actions to protect public health safety. And notably, Zuckerberg says that he will be ready to push back more forcefully if this ever happens again in the future. Becky?
So that sounds to me like they told him to censor stuff that really had no business being censored. He realizes that now, and now he distrusts their recommendation. But the Biden administration says, no, everything was responsible. We did it all responsibly. It was all good information that we were trying to preserve and bad information we were trying to stop. I don't care what information it is. The government shouldn't be shutting people up. That's free speech, free speech, free speech. I don't care if you disagree with it, government. I have a right to say it, and you shouldn't be able to tell anybody to silence me. So, yeah.
And suddenly, he also, in this letter, suggested that the FBI warned about potential Russian disinformation around Hunter Biden and the Ukrainian firm Burisma affecting the 2020 election. And that information was suppressed in some way as well. Is that what we are to understand from this?
No, she just said he revealed that the FBI leaned on him. Hold on, let's go right here. This was posted 1 day ago. Okay, so in her mind, he just now in this letter revealed. Well, if I go back to this clip from 2 years ago, it's going to be Joe Rogan via The Hill, because I couldn't find the clip just from Joe Rogan. But let's see what he had to say about the FBI pressuring him on the Hunter Biden laptop story 2 years ago. And I'll let you determine if that's new information.
How do you guys handle things when they're a big news item that's controversial? Like there was a lot of attention on Twitter during the election because of the Hunter Biden laptop story. The New York
we
Post,
have that too.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
So we took a different path than Twitter. I mean, basically, the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, um, just so you know, like, you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant. So our protocol is different from Twitter's. What Twitter did is they said you can't share this at all. We didn't do that. What we do is we have, if something is reported to us as potentially misinformation, important misinformation, we also have this third-party fact-checking program because we don't want to be deciding what's true and false. And for I think it was 5 or 7 days when it was basically being determined whether it was false, the distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still share it, you could still consume it.
So when you say the distribution is decreased,
It got shared.
How does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise. So it definitely.
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's meaningful. But I mean, basically, a lot of people were still able to share it. We got a lot of complaints that was the case. Obviously this is a hyper political issue. So depending on what side of the political spectrum, you either think we didn't censor it enough or censored it way too much. But we weren't sort of as black and white about it as Twitter. We just kind of thought, hey, look, if the FBI, which I still view as a legitimate institution in this country, it's like very professional law enforcement, if they come to us and tell us that we need to be on guard about something, then I want to take that seriously.
Did they specifically say you need to be on guard about that story?
No, I don't remember if it was that specifically, but it basically fit the pattern.
So he used a lot of wiggle words. I think I maybe like, I can't remember, but no, it was slightly reduced, but also meaningful. So what I take from that is you were able to post the story, but they weren't going to promote it at all. Now, what sticks out to me in that conversation is during the 2020 election cycle, the FBI was talking about how prevalent Russian disinformation in 2016 was. The FBI knew all of that was BS. They knew. They knew. They knew. They knew. They knew. There's no way anybody in an official capacity with 2 brain cells didn't know what was going on with the Russian collusion story. It was BS. So they predicated further censorship off of previous lies. And what are they going to do this cycle? All right. So anyways, that proves this wasn't just revealed in his letter. We've known this for a while, but that also raises the question, why is Zuckerberg doing it now? And I think she's going to ask, so I'm going to wait until she does before I address it. And let's get back to CNN's take on this.
That's absolutely right, Becky. And again, this is something that House Republicans have been pushing to learn more about. He says in this letter that in the fall of 2020, his team temporarily demoted a story that was put out by the New York Post that alleged Biden family corruption. They demoted that, he says, so that it could be cleared through their own fact checkers as they were reviewing this story. And Zuckerberg in this letter says that since then, it's been made clear to him that the reporting was not Russian disinformation. And he says in retrospect that they should not have demoted the story. So that's an important clarification. And he says that Meta has changed some policies to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But again, this just giving a lot of fuel to the fire of House Republicans pushing for more information, especially with the Biden family and the information that's spread over social media.
So they cut into another clip. It's going to repeat a little bit, but we're going to go through it because they do a little bit of analysis. But so what that's displaying right there is Zuckerberg is literally saying everything the government or government agencies have warned us about or asked us to censor, all of it was wrong. all of it shouldn't have been censored at all. The people were posting what they were allowed. Nobody should have been censored. Everybody should have been able to say what they say. I now know what they were telling me was the truth is not the truth, and that is quite the drastic change. And again, it raises the question, what's different now? Is it that Zuckerberg fears Trump administration uncovering all of this, so he's fessing up now? What's happening to the Biden administration? Is anybody getting investigated on this? What's happening to the FBI? Is anybody getting investigated on this? What's happening to Zuckerberg? Is he getting in trouble for censoring American people, even though the government told him to? Because he should. I don't care if the government asked you to do something illegal. It was illegal. I know the FBI and the CIA view that different, but that's how I see it. How about you guys? All right, so back to CNN. Again, this first section is going to be a little bit of a repeat, but we'll get through it.
Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook's parent company, now says he regrets agreeing to requests from the Biden administration to censor content related to COVID-19. In a letter to the House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, Zuckerberg wrote this, quote, "In 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our team for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it." Zuckerberg went on to say Facebook should not have temporarily demoted an article from the New York Post reporting on allegations of corruption in the Biden family in the lead up to the 2020 election. The panel's back. We're also joined by CNN media analyst Sarah Fisher. Sarah, good morning. Wonderful to have you. Thanks for jumping in on this story. I think what Zuckerberg has done here is fascinating. It's not something we've heard from him in this kind of direct way before. What is going on here, and what does it mean for future elections or issues like this?
This is a huge deal. You'll recall Republicans from 2 states sued. They went all through a huge court battle, basically alleging that the government overreached. They lost that court case, but we never heard from Facebook. We never heard from Meta. So we didn't know how they felt about the issue. This is the first time now. And them coming out and saying, look, this was a big deal. We don't agree with these policies. It sets a precedent moving forward that if any government official, if the White House were to pressure them again, we now know where they stand, and hopefully they now feel empowered to push back.
They were sued multiple okay, the administration was sued multiple times, but nobody ever heard from Facebook. Nobody heard from Meta. Why? How? Shouldn't that lawsuit have included like the CEOs of all these social media platforms to see, or did you just trust the government's evaluation of itself? You didn't ask any of the other people that might have been involved? And furthermore, if Zuckerberg was so worried about it, how come he didn't volunteer that information at the time? You think he didn't know those lawsuits were going on? He could have said, hey, whoa, hey guys, I have something to say about this. I might be a material witness. But he didn't. So that's worth noting.
What are the politics behind this? I mean, clearly Zuckerberg is being influenced by a wide variety of factors. Sending this letter to Jim Jordan, did he feel like he had to do it? Why now?
Because ahead of the election, they're going to face a lot of content moderation issues. Even though they don't want to be involved in politics and news anymore, inevitably they are. And so if there is going to be an 11th hour issue like the New York Post story, and Facebook were to make the wrong call, they want everyone in Congress, particularly Republicans, to know that their intent here is not to be picking one side, that they're doing what they think is best for the health of the platform. But if he didn't speak up about the White House pressure now, no one would have believed them then.
So I'll admit that's a valid take. Obviously, elections coming up, this is going to be the most scrutinized time. If they're going to get requests for censorship, this is going to be a huge time. So get ahead of it. Say, hey, the government's been bullying me, and I'm not going to play along this cycle. That's a completely reasonable explanation. I still think he's trying to play it safe because he knows anything can happen with this election. And he wants to not pick a side because he doesn't want to get crucified by the other just in case. But I will admit, for CNN, this seems like mostly fair coverage, which I'm not used to from them. So I guess bravo so far, CNN. You haven't showed any extreme bias, and that's a step forward. So good job.
Mark Preston, what do you see here? If you have a question for Sarah too, I'd be interested in kind of like how you spend a lot of your time thinking about how we as a news organization here at CNN are going to cover these elections, cover politics. It can be really, really tricky, and Facebook, now Meta, was at the center of this.
God, I hate walking the center line again, but I agree with Mark Zuckerberg. No, I agree. I mean, the idea that we have to protect free speech is critical to our democracy, no question about that. We still haven't been able to handle how do we slow the disinformation so as people don't get wrong information. The government clearly didn't do it the right way, but there needs to be a way. It's just we haven't figured it out yet.
Mm-hmm. The way, by the way, is transparency, and that's what I think a lot of government officials are starting to lean into. Facebook can make all the content moderation decisions in the world. We want to know how their algorithms work and why they're making them, and then we can hold them accountable to the decision whether it's right or wrong. We didn't have a lot of those transparency measures in place. It was the 2020 election, and quite frankly, the New York Post story that has now forced a lot of tech companies to be more forthcoming around how they make these decisions.
Well, are they telling?
Okay, so the guy starts off with, we need to protect free speech, but the government needs better ways to stop misinformation. No, it doesn't. The only way the government can counter misinformation is for us to trust the government and then to put out official statements that run counter to whatever misinformation they say. If I can't trust the government, they can't combat misinformation because everything the government says, I am going to question. I'm going to say that's the official narrative, which means it is not true. So unless we can get some trust in government, it's not going to happen. And then this woman, this is where the CNN shines through here. She turned it into, we need to see what Facebook's doing more. No, we need to see what the government is doing more. I need a clearer picture of the government. When she said transparency, I got excited for a second thinking she was talking about the government, but no, she's putting the blame on Facebook. That's not where the blame lies. I mean, TikTok censored it too. I mean, YouTube censored stuff, and YouTube's pretty good about not, I mean, of all the platforms, I feel like they're one of the freest, other than a Rumble or something like that. But she took way the wrong take. She went way off the deep end, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Telling us more about their algorithm?
They are. I mean, now this algorithm is much more like TikTok. It elevates what is going viral as opposed to what your close friends and family think. And that matters, Casey, because a lot of the political content being shared on Facebook, it came from your close friends and family. So we know that there's a reduction in political content. We know that there's a reduction in news content. And we know that it's easier for a random person to go viral very quickly. Now, that's a disinformation problem within itself. But a lot of that disinformation right now, it actually isn't mostly politics. It's a lot of disinformation around consumer harms, things like, someone hawking a bad drug product that's not good for weight loss, but they claim that it is.
Yeah, well, there's...
I'm sorry, do you guys remember like FinFin and stuff like that back in the day? It was like all the rage, supposed to be safe. I mean, we could go through thalidomide, and I mean, even baby powder is causing cervical cancer and stuff. I mean, have you guys gotten to the point where everything we've been told is safe, we just don't believe it anymore? The more, again, it's a trust issue. The more you tell me something is safe without me even thinking about it, the more suspicious I become. That's where I'm at with stuff. I don't know about you guys if you're old enough to remember. I imagine a lot of you aren't. But we used to have commercials on the TV that were just to promote plastic. Plastics make it possible. Well, I never just go buy plastic. You're not selling me plastic. You're selling me the idea that plastic is wonderful. And now here we are 30 years later, and we're finding out that we're all filled with microplastics. So anytime the government tries to promote something as safe, I'm immediately suspicious. When they busted out the COVID-19 vaccines and were like, hey, this is an emergency thing. If anything bad happens to you, you can't sue anybody. Nobody's responsible. And we really rushed the trials on it, and we're hoping all your employers mandate it. And if you're a government employee, we're going to mandate it. Don't question it. No, I'm going to question it. I'm definitely going to question it. But anyways, there is the bombshell that we've all known for years, and it's only coming out now because elections are coming out. Zuckerberg admits censorship was a thing, even though I'm pretty sure I could find you a lot of clips where they were like, no, we didn't censor anything, or you're crazy, you're a conspiracy theory that we're throttling traffic. But there it is. There's the revelation, and who's going to be held accountable? Not a single person, not a single one. How great is our system? Anyways, that is the video. As always, thank you for spending some time with me, and I hope you have a great day.